Toronto, a name that evokes images of a gleaming, modern, and most of all, safe metropolis. It's a city that prides itself on community, on order. A place where, just a year before our story, a young man named Kalen Schlatter was hailed as a hero for saving his neighbor from a vicious attack. He was the embodiment of the city's spirit, a guardian stepping up in a time of need. But every gleaming city has its cracks, its shadows. And in the early hours of November 25th, 2017, the darkness hiding in one of those cracks would seep out. This is the story of how a hero's facade crumbled to reveal a predator, and how a city's sense of security was shattered, not by a stranger from the abyss, but by the boy next door. This is the story of Tess Richey. To understand the profound loss, you must first understand the light that was taken. Tess Richey was the youngest of 5 sisters from North Bay, Ontario, the family's darling, but far from fragile. She was a force of nature. Her heart had 2 main chambers, one for her 2 beloved dogs, Phil and Pearl, and the other for every struggling plant she could nurture back to life. She was fiercely protective, a young woman who had endured the pain of an abusive relationship and channeled that experience into a digital sanctuary on YouTube, offering strength and solidarity to other women. At 22, she had recently graduated from a flight services program in Toronto. The world was at her feet, dreams of travel, of new horizons, of a career in the skies. But in November of 2017, a recent breakup had cast a temporary shadow over her bright world, leaving her grounded and heartbroken. Seeking comfort, Tess spent the afternoon of November 24th with her older sister, Rachel. It was a day of gentle healing, of conversation, quiet shopping, and a trip to Tess's happy place, the dog park. For a few precious hours, Rachel saw the clouds part. She heard her sisters laugh again. It was a sound she clung to. That evening, Tess had plans for a distraction, a night out with an old high school friend at Cruise and Tangos, a vibrant drag bar on Church Street. Around 11:30 p.m., Rachel watched from the window as her sister, a burst of youthful energy, dashed down the stairs and into a waiting Uber. A routine text arrived just after midnight. Arrived safely. It was a simple message, part of a sacred pact between sisters who watched out for one another in the big city. It was the last thread of normalcy. And at that moment, somewhere in the neon-drenched heart of Toronto, that thread was beginning to fray. By the next evening, the silence was deafening. Texts went unanswered. Calls went to voicemail. A cold digital dread led Rachel to their shared Fitbit and Uber accounts. What she found was a ghost story written in data. 300 steps registered at 3 a.m., an Uber requested at 4 a.m., and then canceled. The digital trail ended in a void. The official search for Tess Richey began. But the police, combing the Church and Wellesley area, missed what was right under their noses. Meanwhile, the city's unblinking eyes, the surveillance cameras, began to tell a horrifying tale. The footage showed Tess with a man after her friend left. They walked, hand in hand, a deceptively intimate picture. Their destination, 582 Church Street, a narrow, darkened staircase leading to a basement door hidden from the street, a perfect trap. The camera saw them descend into the gloom. "45 minutes later, the man emerged alone. His walk was not a rush of panic, but a slow, almost casual strut. He had left something, or rather, someone, behind in the dark. For 4 agonizing days, hope warred with despair. Tess's mother, Christine, drove from North Bay, her hands filled with flyers, her heart a battlefield of fear. On November 29th, the day before her daughter's 23rd birthday, Christine and a friend were conducting their own desperate search, retracing steps the police had already walked. They came to that same building on Church Street. Something, a shape, a splash of color at the bottom of the stairwell. Christine looked, and in that single shattering moment, the world stopped. It was her daughter, Tess, lying lifeless in that cold concrete tomb. The image a mother should be spared from, now etched onto the back of her eyelids forever. The police had been here. They had claimed to have searched. Their failure was so complete, so catastrophic, that they forced a mother to perform the most horrific task imaginable: to find the body of her own child. The initial police theory, a tragic accident, was obliterated on December 1st. The autopsy revealed the truth: neck compression, strangulation, a homicide, and they had a key piece of evidence: male DNA on Tess's clothing. The hunt for the man in the footage led to a name that sent a ripple of disbelief through the community: Kalen Schlatter, 21 years old. Neighbors described him as sweet, quiet, a hero. The same Kalen Schlatter who a year prior had been interviewed on television after saving his neighbor from a hammer-wielding assailant. The Guardian was now the suspect. He arrived for a police interview with his parents and a lawyer, polite but uncooperative. He refused to provide a DNA sample. But then, a moment of sheer poetic justice. His parents offered him a bottle of water. He drank from it and discarded it. That bottle, now a crucial piece of evidence, was retrieved. The DNA was a perfect match. The hero was the killer. And in a jail cell, unaware that his neighbors were undercover officers, the real Kalen emerged. He boasted of being a ladies' man, of seducing scores of women. His phone revealed a depraved library of violent, degrading sexual content. The predator had been hiding behind a hero's medal all along. At his trial, which began in January 2020, Kalen Schlatter wove a web of lies. He claimed he and Tess had bonded over their breakups, that she had initiated a kiss, that she was alive and well when he left her. But the truth was a relentless prosecutor. Her phone records showed no incoming calls that night, disproving his story. The canceled Uber proved she never left that staircase. The most damning testimony came from a cellmate who stated that Kalen confessed to losing control when Tess refused his advances and strangling her with a scarf. His tears in jail, the cellmate said, were not for Tess, but for himself, for the prison sentence he feared. And as Tess's sister Rachel stood before the court, her voice breaking as she described the agony of their loss, Kalen listened. His face was a mask of stoic indifference, no flicker of remorse, no shred of humanity. On March 23, 2020, the verdict was delivered: guilty. Kalen Schlatter was sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole for 25 years. A sentence was passed, but the story is far from over. The failure of the Toronto police force became a central, agonizing part of the tragedy. Two officers, Alan McCullough and Michael Jones, were charged with misconduct for their negligent search, a search that could have spared Christine Richey a lifetime of trauma. She said it best, her words a painful indictment. If they had followed protocol, they would have found her. She was lying just around the corner. The Richey family filed a $20 million lawsuit, a quest for accountability, not just from the killer, but from the system that failed them. So, what is the true, lingering horror of this story? It is the duality of evil, the monster who wears the mask of a hero. It is the fragility of our trust in the institutions sworn to protect us. Tess Richey's light was extinguished in a staircase, just around the corner from safety, by a hand she thought she could trust. A chilling reminder that the most terrifying darkness is not that which we run from, but that which smiles back at us and offers a hand.